All right, so it's been a I don't want to say a hectic week, but usually I do power rankings, so I don't know when this is going to be up. My guess is late on a Thursday night during the game, so if you need something to watch at halftime or listen at halftime, here are my power rankings. I lost the paper, so I do apologize. So I'm going to start at number 12. I'm just going to speed, through these. This might be like a 10-minute segment. So if you're looking for, yo, where's my name? You're just going to have to listen for everything. My number 12 team, David Krier, hitting with the injury bug and a lot of bad bust picks. So when you're getting your top guys hurt and you had some bad picks and not a lot of guys you can plug in at the moment, looks like it's a lost season for you, buddy. I do apologize. I know people are blaming me for getting you too hyped up. My sincere apologies. My number 11 team is going to be Alex Matika. Alex, I think he got his first win against the injury-plagued David Krier. But when it comes down to it, I don't trust Saquon Barkley long-term. You should be selling him high immediately before he goes down because this team looks like straight garbage. Devontae Adams is a great pick. Nothing wrong there. Lamar Jackson stacked is not a quarterback to stack with. I have a big problem looking at that. Do I think your panic meter is set high? A little bit, but you've got guys you could sell. Sony Michel could be intriguing if Darrell Henderson, doesn't pan out. Like I think he won't pan out. But, there's a lot I don't like about this team, to be quite honest. And honestly, if you want the icing on the cake, you got the harsh curse, which never fails. So there you go. My number 10 team is harsh. Listen, buddy, this is not what you had planned at all. Sorry about that. The defending champ having a championship hangover. My sincere apologies. But listen, this is like my team last year. It was Kyler Murray, a bunch of receivers, and no running backs. If you don't have a bell cow running back, it's not doing. Also harsh, A.J. Brown being hurt doesn't help you. And Adam Thielen and Deebo Samuel, I think, are sell highs. I don't trust them to keep producing at that rate. Not big on this team. A little bit of a hot take here. What number am I on? 9? Correct. My number 9 team is Rob COffey. Now, if Rob did not get his victory against Mr. Vintage Harsh, there's a good chance that this ranking could be a lot lower. Rob's bad luck was this. He lost a lot of guys to injury. His running backs are intriguing because he's got a lot of lottery tickets, but there is no explosive receivers on this team, and you're still trying to figure out the quarterback position. Your point total is very low. I know you can look revisionist history. You could go back. You could look. You could say, hey, what if I had this quarterback here? I get it, but Eckler is great. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, jury's still out on him. George Kittle has not produced. Godwin's great, but like the guys like Jamal Williams, Tony Pollard, Tyler Boyd, like those are like minimal, like they're flex guys. They're guys you can't start, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Juju Smith-Schuster wasn't going to be relevant anyway. He's hurt. Sterling Shepard hurt. The Jerry Jeudy injury, I think, really set you back because I think we were looking at a huge breakout over here. And Elijah Mitchell, though, might be your might be your way out of this hole. But I even though your running backs are good, you got to make a trade because even though you have a lot of running backs that can fall back on, your receivers are too floory. Like if you had, let's say you had, like an Amari Cooper type instead of like a Tyler Boyd, this team I think I would rank a lot higher, but these guys are just boring floor guys. And I think when I look at it, everybody's floor is 10 and the upside isn't, like I don't see any of these guys reaching 20 plus points if they hit, except Eckler. Which leads me to my next team. Hot take. I have this team ranked really high. It's 0-3, but the Allen Williams team is not a bad team. I think, Allen, I give you a lot of credit. I actually thought that you were putting up 120 plus a week, and it's not that high. But there are a lot of intriguing pieces here. Allen, I love your DeAndre Swift pick. That is the one. If you want to come out of the season with anything to hang your cap on, you can say that, I told you all about Swift, and I will give you that because everybody was down on DeAndre Swift except for you. Jamar Chase pick was also good. You say, I told you about that. I still don't like the Jefferson with Dalvin Cook thing because it limits upside and this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. But you've got a lot of intriguing pieces. And the reason why it sucks that you're 0-3, but like this team could get dangerous as the season progresses. There's a lot to like. Stafford is having a great season. Cortland Sutton's role is going to have to be expanded. Javonte Williams is only going to get better as the season wears down. But you need to pile up some victories. But like I think when the guys that I have you over, I think your roster is better than them. 100%. 100%. Like if you look at your starting lineup right now without Dalvin Cook, it's better than in my personal opinion. I think you could beat all those other 4 teams at any given week. That's just my thing. Okay. Next, I have the other cousin, and that's Andre Jones. Andre, the reason why I have you ranked low is because you only got 1 victory, so you are not going to be in my top 6. Deontay Johnson's hurt. Calvin Ridley has not become Calvin Ridley. But the thing that you can fall back on, Jalen Hurts looks good, and you've got 2 running backs that are commanding the most volume in their respective offenses. So I do like that a lot. I hate McCall Hardman. I think that's where you screwed up a little bit there. Kareem Hunt, I don't even know what to categorize him at this point. I think your panic meter is a lot lower than the other teams, to be quite honest. Okay, now for the top 6. BMagic, yet again, starting off with a nice winning record. He's got a 2-1 record. Allen, a little bit upset, thought he had it in the bag, and then, boop, you beat him. BMagic, I think your team is very top-heavy, but you've got a lot of – the flexes are not consistent, and I think it's hard to decide between the management, between the guys that you think that you can start, bottom line. But Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs is still one of the most dangerous combos you could have. Amari Cooper is a dangerous receiver. He could pop off at any minute. Nick Chubb is okay. James Robinson, I still think he's a sell high, but the flexes are kind of the weak point because it's hard to determine who's going to go off. Patrick, you enter in at number 5 on my power rankings. There's a lot to like about your team, but DeAndre Hopkins makes me a little bit nervous. Herbert to Keenan Allen looked great, but it looks like Herbert to Mike Williams, which I would have never called in a million years. Looks like that was the right move to make. Patrick, just like BMagic, your teams are set up very, very similar if you even look at it. I don't like your flexes either. It's very hard to determine. The one thing that you got going for you, though, is Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry goes well and Justin Herbert is what you thought you were getting, that's hard to beat on any given week. But the flexes need some adjustments. Paul, you come in at number 4. You're 3-0, have not lost yet. Congratulations, my man. May the best man in our division win, bottom line. So, Paul, the thing that I'm maybe more impressed with the 3-0 status, and you're gonna have a classic Paul moment here, is that you've gone 3-0 without Tyreek Hill doing much. Thank you. That's what I've been trying to say to everyone. All right. I get it, big dog. I get it. I like Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill long term. I'm going off the brain, Paul, so I'm trying to remember who your wide receiver 2 is. Shit, I gotta look this up. Sorry, I was trying to go rapid fire and I freaking stopped at Paul. Oh, Beckham. Okay, whatever with Beckham. Carson is when he's healthy, he's okay. Jonathan Taylor makes me a little bit nervous, and your flexes make me a little bit nervous long term as well. But bottom line is, you're 3-0. You have arguably the best. Oh, yeah, I'll say it. I put Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill over Rodgers and Devontae Adams just because Patrick Mahomes is never at risk for a running back to steal touchdowns where Rodgers is. But again, Paul, when I look at your team, Patrick's team, and BMagic's team, all of your teams are set up. You have the quarterback with the wide receiver stacked, and on top of it, your flexes are very questionable. My number 3 team coming into the power rankings is actually going to be, man, I'm burping a lot today. That's coffee. It's me. I'm 3-0. A lot of good things to like about the team. Aaron Jones, way to go. Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf has been as good as advertised. The Cooper Kupp breakout is just absolutely astronomical. Running back 2 is still like to be determined. Mike Davis is a short-term investment, so I could wait and see approach with everybody else. The And there's some interesting pieces on this team as well. Tyler Higbee. But I think after a sluggish week 1, where the Packers had that weird game, I think things are looking bright, and there's some upside flyer guys on this squad as well. My number 2 team, I got to be quite honest with everybody, I would have this guy at number 1, but I want to show respect to the man who's still undefeated. David is my number 2. This team could have easily been number 1. Bottom line, when I see it, where the hell is the flaw on this team? David, I'm going to flat out put this right now. In my personal opinion, if everything kind of goes the way it's supposed to go with this, that, and the other, this might be the most complete team I think you've ever had. I don't see a flaw anywhere on this team. I look at it and I'm like, the bench is better than half these kids' teams' starting rosters. Look. The last time you won the Super Bowl, you had a great team, but you also wheeled and dealed your way into that. This was all homegrown. This, to me, is the most complete team that I think that you've ever had. Ever. Obviously, you would want the RB2 to be a little better. I think you've had better running back combinations in the past, but when it comes from starting receivers to the flex position guys. Oh, and by the way, not to mention the fact that Brandon Ayuk, Cordell Patterson, and you got another interesting character on the bench who I can't remember at this moment, but they are also probably going to be producing at season's end. When we do power rankings the next time, this team will definitely be number 1. If it doesn't, it's because the whole team got exploded. And number 1, Jonathan. 3-0. Most points in the league. Check. The Bills won last Sunday. Check. Cole Beasley still again. Check. Tyler Lockett. Mike Evans. Check. Okay, we get it. Johnny, I gotta give you a round of applause. That I am never for starting my draft with a tight end. I hate building around a tight end, but the way you traded into the draft worked out to perfection. It is literally everything I imagined, just a little bit better. So I gotta give you some credit on that one, big dog. Gotta give you some credit on that one. Quick tidbit on power rankings. If you were not in the if you were on the bottom tier, you guys got to trade something or something. I don't know. Gonna break this down for you guys. I'm gonna try to speed through this. I know I have to still give a little bit of a take, but this one is gonna be sweet and short. So it's BMagic versus a crippled David Krier team. Already down Christian McCaffrey, already down T. Higgins not in this game, and Darrell Henderson status up in the air. Doesn't look good. On the flip side of the ball, BMagic, the Josh Allen stack alone, I think if it hits, is going to cancel out at least 4 players on the crippled David Krier side. But BMagic, if you do want some insight, guys I would have to worry about, if anything, Darren Waller is always a threat. Darren Waller is going to have to carry this team if they have any shot at winning. Corey Davis' revenge game is viable. Zach Wilson, I'm a Jets fan, obviously. He's looked bad, but he also has played 3 tough defenses in the Carolina Panthers, the New England Patriots, and on the road into Mile High. No. This is a very soft matchup. I actually like Corey Davis a lot this week. The thing that's interesting is Christian Kirk and A.J. Green. This whole Arizona carousel thing, I think David, is going to have no choice. But look, I don't like A.J. Green at all either. But it always seems like the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers are just like the Bills. Like you have the elite guy who is the safest one at everybody, and then 2 of the 4 might go off, but it's like very impossible to figure out who that's going to be. Like last week it was Sanders and Beasley, and last week for the Cardinals I believe it was AJ Green and Christian Kirk. So it's either going to be Green, Kirk, Hopkins. Now, good news for both of you. I don't know if Jalen Ramsey shadows that much, but DeAndre Hopkins doesn't look 100% healthy at the moment. David, if I'm making a case for you to win, It's slim, obviously, but you need like a lot to happen. Bottom line is this BMagic. I'm gonna obviously pick you in this one, but I don't think it's a convincing victory at all. I think I like the Josh Allen Stephon Diggs stack. I think Cooper's been quiet, but he should be bouncing back, especially with J.C. Horn out now too. Chubb's okay. I don't know what to think of James Robinson. I was way out on him. I thought he was a trap pick, and then I don't trust Urban Meyer either. So, and I don't like your flexes. But I feel like if Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, your key to victory, if those two can kind of connect, considering that Nick Chubb is going to get his own workload, this should be a walk in the park for you. Obviously, on David Krier, when he has Aaron Rodgers, he's good, but with no running backs really, he's going to have to rely on Waller, Davis, and Christian Kirk. The only way I think he wins is if those three score touchdowns and Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs don't go off. He has a very slim chance, but I think if Allen and Diggs connect, you at least have some serviceable of a lineup to get through this, where Krier doesn't. But this is probably the least exciting game of the week. But I'll take BMagic. Going to go through really quickly with this one too. Two teams that have really underperformed, and it's been a 3-week sample size, and I think this is what you're getting out of both of these lineups. I don't think that this is any team that's getting unlucky. I think what you see is what you get. Harsh. I don't know if I'm doing power rankings. I have a busy schedule, but your team is set up like mine was last year, which is not a recipe for success. I'll take Kyler over Lamar. Devontae and LaVisca versus CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Smith. Give me, just because of Devontae Adams alone. I don't like LaVisca Chenault. Devontae Smith, I'm never big on him coming out of the draft. CeeDee Lamb's going to be good, but Adams is just going to be too much. And again, I got to go Barkley and Sanders over Gibson and Ahmed. I just think that the workload, this is a bad matchup for Saquon Barkley, and I don't trust him long term. I think right now, you're struggling, Alex. I would sell the crap out of Saquon Barkley before he gets hurt, because it's only a matter of time. And I think if you can find somebody who's desperate enough for a running back and get something in return, I would do that in a heartbeat. A lot of fantasy sites are trying to sell high on Antonio Gibson. I don't know what you can get for him necessarily. Like, I think people are saying now he's the new Joe Mixon, which kind of sucks, but that's literally like the definition of a high-end 2, low-end 1. Again, you have no running back, so Salvon Ahmed is going to have to start again. Sanders in a matchup against Kansas City, I think, is going to be a little bit of a sneaky play for this week. Tight ends, both of these guys are a draw. I don't like Mark Andrews. I think he was a one-hit wonder. Logan Thomas is okay. Thielen and Samuel are much better than Gaskin and Marquise Brown. And I'm just going to go quickly with this matchup because I do got things to do. Apologize if you were looking for more in-depth matchup crap. Adam Thielen and Deebo Samuel, I think they are in prime matchups, although I will say, key on this, both Thielen and Deebo Samuel should be sold like immediately. I do not trust Deebo Samuel long-term at all. Brandon Ayuk is finally out of the doghouse. This is a team that does not like to throw a lot. I think you might have missed out on the opportunity to sell high after 2 weeks, but I know that's your boy. I'd be shocked if he continued to put up the pace that he's going at. I'm not buying it. Adam Thielen, you know how I feel about that. Now, he might be the more outlier guy because he's scoring every freaking game, but yeah, I'm not buying it. He's being treated as a tight end because they don't even run deep routes with him that much anymore. If he goes deep, it's because it's a busted zone coverage. Let's be honest here. Because I like Kyler Murray and I think Lamb and Adams can come close in a point total, I'm not big on Alex's flexes, so I actually do think the harsh curse prevails against Alex in this one. But again, this is a matchup that is literally going to be not a lot of points, Well, actually, they don't have. I think actually Harsh will hit the projection at 116. I'll give you something like 124, and Alex maybe like 113. All right, this is an interesting matchup. One of these teams was in danger of going 0-3 last week, and it came very, very close to becoming 0-3. This manager has told me that he is still not panicking. I certainly would be if I looked at this roster. And then you have Andre Jones. Andre Jones, I think it's not a bad team, Andre. I'm not coming out here. I know you love when I hate because it fuels an outburst from your team that gets me pissed off. There's a lot of moves. There's the one move I did not like was obviously for McCole Hardman, but turns out you might actually need him if Deontay Johnson can't go. And I don't know what the Antonio Brown situation is like. Now on the Rob COffey side of the ball, go figure. The one time where he has his he had some bad performances, but he got very fortunate that at this time somebody didn't put up more points than him. And the injury bug continues with the Rob COffey team. And then bottom line, the way I look at it is there's no boom guys on this team that make me jump up and say, wow, that's dangerous. They're all just steady floor guys. Now, you want those guys on your team, but you need some, flavor, man. It's pretty much chicken without seasoning. That's the way I'm describing COffey's team. Jalen Hurts or Derek Carr, they're both in really, I want to use the quotes as shootout. The one thing about the Raiders, they have not played a team that can throw the ball deep, so we'll see how that goes. Jalen Hurts, I'm going to take the edge on, even though I think Derek Carr is going to hit his 24 points. Mr. Hurts, rushing ability, and against a fast-paced Kansas City offense, there's going to be room for him to score. I think this is his first. Is this his first? I'm going to say first 30-point game. Oh, no, second. Wow, he had 34 in week 1. Jalen Hurts, definition of a really quarterback in real life, but great for fantasy. Calvin Ridley and McCole Hardman versus Chris Godwin and Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd with no T. Higgins, fire him up, although they are not. And this is interesting. I'm gonna throw this out here. If Boyd happens to do something and you're desperate, COffey, somehow you win, I don't know how, you need to ship him off immediately, unless it's just because the Bengals have actually done a cakewalk of schedule. Burrow has not had a lot of dropbacks this year. Last year, we loved Boyd because of that. Maybe it's just circumstantial. But even so, I would try to sell him when T. Higgins comes back because it seems like Boyd is the odd man out as far as, he's getting bailed out with touchdowns. It's not even like consistency, really, if you kind of think about it. Godwin's absolutely fine. My only concern about Chris Godwin is Bill Belichick against Tom Brady. Bill probably knows where Tom likes to go over the middle of the field. Does that mean that he takes out Chris Godwin? If I'm Bill Belichick, I try to take him out of the game, but I'm not Bill Belichick. I take my chance with Mike Evans one-on-one. I think he's an overrated receiver. And I think that Antonio Brown is probably going to, if he plays, Antonio Brown's going to score a touchdown. I'm interested to see if they key on these zones over the middle of the field. That's where I think Bill is going to try to take out. But if Godwin runs everything underneath, Bill might make him get 10 catches that, like a Jalen Waddle stat line. So I think Godwin will be okay. Let's talk about Andre. McCole Hardman, no. Calvin Ridley. Okay, COffey, if there's one thing you can take your victory lap around, it doesn't look like this guy is a pure number 1 alpha. I think everybody was expecting, okay, the targets are going to be there. The targets are going to be there. The targets are going to be there. They're really not that much there for a number 1 wide receiver alpha. And Arthur Smith cannot scheme this guy to get open for whatever reason. This is the Washington football team. If he cannot break down double-digit points in this matchup, there's a huge problem, and he might be looking at for where you took him as a bust. But I have to go with the COffey side only because I think they're safer. Ezekiel Elliott, David Montgomery versus Austin Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This on paper looks like a very, if this was a drafted, after the draft, this would be very evenly matched. People are hyping up Carolina's defense against the run but let's be honest, yes, they took out Alvin Kamara, but the Jets don't have any good running backs and the Texans don't have any good running backs. And now you're dealing with probably the best offensive line. Zeke is back, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why everybody was pushing that panic button. I like Zeke. David Montgomery in a smash spot as well. Give me some of him. So I'm going to go with this side, although I like Eckler in a potential shootout spot against the Vegas Raiders. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I am not buying. Again, this is a guy who should be sold as well after that 100-yard performance, because I don't think we're going to see that again. I don't expect Andy Reid to come into the office and say, you know what, we need to run the ball a little bit more this time today, guys. Not seeing that either. Give me Kittle over Cook. Kareem Hunt and Deontay Johnson. Jamal Williams and Tony Pollard. Jamal Williams and Tony Pollard have very little standalone value, but COffey's got to start them with all these injuries that he's going. COffey, I'm not going to give you any hints. You know what, Andre? I'm sorry, bud. I'll give a suggestion of both of you to play it fair. Andre, if Deontay Johnson can't go, buddy, you've got two guys that are in great. Actually, you know what? Get Mecole Hardman out of your stupid lineup. Deontay Johnson can't go. Andre, I don't know. You can't start Robbie Anderson at this point. Antonio Brown against New England revenge game spot definitely looks very enticing. Or do you go Rondale Moore after he burned you last week, because you've never started this guy yet? And this is the problem with deep threats. Listen to me if you're both of you. COffey doesn't draft deep threats. He likes the possession guys. But I say this all the time. If you're getting guys that are deep threats, or guys that are in high octane offenses that they're so volatile that they can go off, like a Christian Kirk, for example, on Arizona, and Emmanuel Sanders on Buffalo. Yeah, it's impossible to predict these guys, but you got to put them in your lineup if you have the firepower. And honestly, I think any of the guys on your bench better than Mecole Hardman. Take your fucking pick. Sorry for dropping the F-bomb, but I don't know if this is just me. See, I said I wasn't going to get agitated at your lineup. I'm not. It's just one guy. I don't like what you did there. Deontay Johnson. If he plays, he's going to be there, but he's kind of a boring guy now because Ben can't throw the ball at all. Regardless, Tony Pollard makes me a little bit nervous in this matchup against Carolina because they might like to exploit, passing to the running back on the outside instead of running up the middle. I'm not going to lie there. COffey, on the other side of the ball, buddy. I know it's hard for you to bench. I think you're shooting for the stars with Jamal and Tony Pollard, but you've got a guy on the bench that is healthy that I know is in a smash spot, and I am surprised he's not in your starting lineup as of right now. My thing with Jamal Williams is DeAndre Swift looks absolutely amazing. It turns out that if Allen wants to take a victory lap on anything so far this season, I'll give him the DeAndre Swift pick because we were afraid this was going to be a split. But the thing with Jamal here is that, he's involved, but I feel like now it's Swift more in the passing game because the targets have gone down. It's been 9 targets week 1, Green Bay 3 targets, and that was in a revenge game spot too, and then 2 targets. So they keep going down, and I think that Dan Campbell realizes, okay, it's going to be a split, boys, but DeAndre is going to take – Allen won that pick, unless DeAndre Swift goes down, obviously. So, and the Bears front's no joke. I understand, they looked like crap last week, but all right. Look, bottom line is this is going to be a fun game in a way, but this is a panic. This is a panic game. These guys cannot afford to lose this one. Somebody's got to go to I almost said 2-3. 2-2, while somebody else has to go 1-3, unfortunately. And I think the biggest difference for me in this matchup, the key to victory here, I think, has to be a healthy George Kittle. Jared Cook is going to be a non-factor, but I do feel like Carr and Hurts will be at least 10 points within each other. I don't know what to think of Calvin Ridley anymore. Thank God I took DK Metcalf over him because that's who I was debating at my second round pick. Godwin and Boyd, they're flory enough. Eckler looks healthy for now. Coffey, Clyde-Helaire. If Edwards-Helaire has another good game, I think Coffey's got this in the bag because I shouldn't say that. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna go Rob Coffey. I actually do think that Andre's got a lot of decent matchups, and I'll be honest, Andre. I have your team ranked better than Rob's at this point, but something about Rob's team this week in particular I like a lot, and a very aggressive bid for Derek Carr. Go Krier. All right, so we have opposite records going at it, a 3-0 team versus an 0-3 team, and I want to pump the brakes right off the bat, and I know you're listening. This is not a superstitious take at all. I do think that this team has gotten very unlucky. And I'm not talking about very unlucky where I'm saying this team should be 3-0. They should at least have one win under their belt. Some management decisions, some injuries, and then I did not know this was a thing, Alan. Apparently, Johnny has kept track of when his fantasy team plays on his birthday and swears there's outbursts. I think it was a one-time thing, and he tried to make that narrative up in his head. But, okay. I do think that this is for an Allen team, it's not your traditional Allen team. He was forced to play a hand that he didn't want, and I actually don't think he did that bad at all drafting it. I think he did a really good job. I know you got some injuries dealing with on this roster as well. When I look at this team, though, usually we make fun of the Allen teams because they don't have running backs in September and October. But week 3 was bad. Actually, no, you're really. I thought you put up more points than this. What I'm trying to say here, though, is when I look at this team, there are some decent pieces on this team. It's not where the receivers are just there and no running backs, because I actually like a lot of your running backs. I know that's weird. Some guys for starting now and then some other guys for long term. Matt Stafford versus Russell Wilson. I'm going Matt Stafford on this side. I'm not even going to say this is a draw. Russell Wilson, last week got unlucky because the Vikings held the ball for so long in the second half. Matt Stafford is in the highest paced game of the week, the shootout of the week. It's going to live up to expectations. I think the Rams win, but I'll take Matt Stafford over Russell Wilson. I think Russ might hit 20s to high 20s, but Stafford's definitely getting into the 30s. I'd be shocked if Stafford did not get 30 plus. DK Metcalf versus Allen Robinson versus Jamar Chase and Cortland Sutton. Okay, so I'm going to throw this thing out here about the Thursday night games. I always get skeptical about a running back that's playing on Thursday night after coming off a huge workload. I love receivers on Thursday night. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure your household receivers, not your waiver wire guys. For whatever reason, man, it's just so simple. They don't have a lot of time to jam up the playbook in a short week. Jamar Chase coming off a big game. They got rid of their best cornerback. He's scoring a touchdown. And these receivers have been known to have career games on Thursday nights. No T. Higgins means he's going to be the vertical threat. On top of that, he's the only one who Burrow trusts going deep. If I'm pushing back on anything, Burrow's pass attempts have gone way down since his rookie year, and they're running the ball a little bit more, and this is a game that looks like they might get up ahead very, very early. But regardless, nonetheless, my friend, I think he finds the end zone. You got to hope that Jacksonville keeps it somewhat competitive, because I did start to notice once they had a 2-possession lead over Pittsburgh, Joe Mixon they didn't care. They were running it up him into brick walls as long as they could kill the clock. Cortland Sutton is in a fantastic matchup because for whatever reason, the Ravens defense has not looked good at all this year, and you're able to throw deep on them. My only concern, and usually they don't shadow him that much anymore, Marlon Humphrey is now like kind of a permanent slot corner guy. Sutton is not that type of guy. You might luck out on this. But the Broncos have also played really bad defenses. They've played the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. If this team has fallen off, but they're much better than those, Bridgewater's holding on to the ball a little bit too long. I don't know how this game is going to develop, but they didn't need to use Courtland Sutton last week. I think they're going to have to rely on him in this one. DK Metcalf against San Francisco. I like it a lot now more because Tyler Lockett is on the injury report, which means he's going to be a decoy. I've had him forever, which means that they're going to try to rely on DK Metcalf. And this Niners secondary has already banged up. They are not that talented. So hopefully this is good news. Now, a guy who has not lived up to his draft capital, Allen Robinson. I'm throwing out whatever the hell that was in Cleveland. This is the Detroit Lions. If he cannot get anything done against the Detroit Lions, there's major problems with Justin Fields, Matt Nagy, Allen Robinson. I don't know. My biggest worry if Allen Robinson doesn't get it right on this week is that they go up big and then they just run the ball because they don't like Justin Fields throwing the ball. That's my biggest problem. So if Detroit doesn't make this competitive, Allen Robinson going to be looking at another dud game, even though this matchup is the best matchup he's had all year. If I want to make the case for saying, a buy low opportunity on Allen Robinson, he's faced Jalen Ramsey. Bengals secondary is not a joke. We always think about the Bengals, okay, stream, boom, 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 boom. They're not a joke, dude. They're actually very, very decent. Not elite, decent enough. And then Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. And Justin Fields making his first career start. So you have that to, go back on. Anyway, I'm going to have to say this is a draw. I love Chase and Sutton. I have a weird feeling this is going to be a big Courtland Sutton game. Just my gut feeling. Aaron Jones, Mike Davis, Javonte Williams, and DeAndre Swift. I'm going to say this right now. I think this could be a draw if Javonte Williams gets at least 9 points because that's all Mike Davis does for my team. Aaron Jones is in a really bad matchup, but Aaron Jones is also using the passing game a lot. This Pittsburgh team looks like a mess, and the defense is not that good without T.J. Watt. Honestly, I'm loving every minute of DeAndre Swift this year. I said on Andre's matchup, that was probably, if you want to take a victory lap at anything, that was a phenomenal pick. You did not buy into the regression at all, so I'll give you that. So you're always talent over hype and blurbs and whatnot. This honestly to me looks like a draw. Things are getting close. Tyler Higbee or Kyle Pitts. I want to lean draw, but my gut feeling tells me that Tyler Higbee is going to score a touchdown against the Arizona Cardinals. Higbee's best game in his career was against the Arizona Cardinals. McVay started to scheme him up a little bit more. He's played 100% of the snaps. I love me some Tyler Higbee this week. Kyle Pitts, I don't know what the hell that was about last week. Maybe they get it right this week. Cooper Kupp or Chuba Hubbard versus Justin Jefferson and Terrence Marshall Jr. Bottom line is this. If Cook comes in, I'm giving you the advantage on the flex. I'm not even going to front over here. I love Cooper Kupp. Obviously, he's having a career year. Chuba Hubbard, he might be like a boring 10 to 12 point guy. If he was great at OSU, Oklahoma State, I'm sorry. But I don't see the Panthers controlling this game where they're going to have the long breakaway runs. I think Hubbard might get some touches. I think he maybe gets 10 to 12 carries, 5 targets in the passing game. It might be like a Flory-esque game. I am not expecting an explosive game here. Terrence Marshall, with no Christian McCaffrey, Darnold's pass attempts are going to have to go up, and they can't all go to DJ Moore. He's having a great year as well. Marshall could be in for a more of an expanded role, and so should Robbie Anderson. And I think the defenses cancel each other out. Look, listen to what I'm telling you right now. This is an even matchup. For matchups alone, not talent. Matchups alone, I do think that this is a very, very intriguing matchup. I at least, I Alan, I hyped you up a little too much. I thought you put up like 120 every week, which in this day and age isn't terrible. Here's my keys to victory for Allen. The key to victory number one, which is really going to suck. You have Matt Stafford, but I have Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. Matt Stafford would have to have more touchdowns go to other people not named Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, which means Deshaun Jackson's got to get hit over the top. Van Jefferson. Robert Woods has just been probably the biggest bust this far. So that kind of sucks. But if there's any area where I am vulnerable, Dalvin Cook got to play too. My concern with the Vikings-Browns game, both these teams like to move at a very slow pace. And if Dalvin Cook is in, I can see this being the classic Dalvin Cook touches the ball a million times and they don't throw. I saw what the Vikings did in the second half against Seattle, and they controlled the crap out of the clock. I was wondering, I was like, Russell Wilson's points didn't move for me until like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. It was insane. My key to victory, man, Higbee and Kupp after producing a shootout. The best case scenario for me, which would really piss off Allen, is if Stafford just threw for a bunch of yards, they all went to Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, and they just had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. That would suck, but that's kind of a weird case scenario here. I honestly think the biggest game changer that could come down to like the victor would be in the running back department, because I think they're both kind of evenly matched in this type of matchup. Because if Aaron Jones was in a better matchup, I would really lean very heavily on my side. But Pitt D stops the run very well still. And everything else they're kind of shaky at. So it should be interesting. Alan, I don't pick any victors. But I just want to say, even that the record is 3-0 versus 0-3, this is not what I'm looking at. I do think the highest scoring player on this matchup is going to have to be Matt Stafford. My bold take, I don't know. Guys that I'm expecting big games from the Allen side that we're trying to, be mentally prepared for, if you will. Jamar Chase, number one. Jefferson or Cook, they might be able to coexist because both defenses are really bad. But if they just run and control, I think the best thing that for you is if Cleveland D gets a turnover early, because then the Vikings start to get in a panic mode and then they kind of use everybody. So it'll be interesting to see. Looking forward to this matchup. It is very, very interesting. And I honestly think, Alan, if you plug in Dalvin Cook, this matchup, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm doing the math, it's close. It's like 133 to 128. So it's going to be a fun one. Okay, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about here. So you can argue that there is one team that is definitely, in my opinion, the most complete team in the league, and another team that, for whatever reason, I think this was like last year too, shows signs of being good, but they never put it together. That's Patrick versus David. I'm going to speed by this. Herbert or Prescott. I'm going to go draw. Hopkins, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin. This is going to be very weird, and I do apologize if this backfires, but I'm actually going to side with the David side. Something's up with DeAndre Hopkins. He hasn't looked right the last 2 weeks. Maybe they saw the schedule and they're like, okay, well, we have the Jaguars, and who did they beat up on in week 2? They beat up on somebody really bad. The Vikings. Maybe they rested him for this amazing matchup coming up. I don't know. Keenan Allen against the Raiders. Slayer, as they like to call him, loves to slay the Raiders. My hot take here, because we got to talk about it now. I think Keenan Allen outproduces Mike Williams for the first time this year. That is gross just saying that. DJ Moore, without Christian McCaffrey, you are going to get an absolute. You thought what you had was good. I think it's better, but I think DJ Moore is a definition of a low-end one where he's constantly just getting into the teens. They don't like to use him vertically, which means those 20-point outbursts that he had last year. But I like this DJ Moore better. I do not like the inconsistency DJ Moore. Terry McLaurin, again, a nice positive matchup. Hopkins makes me nervous. If I knew he was healthy 100% and a great shootout type of an atmosphere, I'd go Patrick, but I'm going to lean David. Well, okay, so I'm just going to put it this way. Can Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon get over 40 points because Derrick Henry's probably going to get 30-something? The answer is, without a doubt, yes. Alvin Kamara will be just fine. Joe Mixon against Jacksonville. Joe Mixon will score a touchdown. I think this is a given. Hawkinson and Noah Fant. Funny, both these guys were hyped up in the same draft class. Give me Hawkinson. I hate Noah Fant. Chase Edmonds, Zach Pascal, Brandon Cooks from. Oh, here we go. Okay. Well, I guess it's official. I guess it's official. 3 games in a row he's looked like, and his greatest game in his entire career, Mike Williams, is actually a thing. We only took the guy freaking 5 years. So now I've done some research. Everybody says, well, it was Anthony Lynn's play calling. That's why he sucked, Nick. Okay, but that's the easiest answer. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. I did some research. I went through everything. I said, okay, is he running more routes? That was yes. And everybody's saying, okay, the route tree is expanded with Staley now running the reins. But, like, you knew what this guy could do at Clemson. I don't and then I realized it. Mike Williams is an alpha because he cut off his dreads. They were holding him back. Brandon Cooks. David, I don't know. That might be the trade of the year for you. I hate guys like Damian Harris. It's literally touchdown or nothing. And you got a guy who's going to be definition of garbage time Dwayne Bowe factor. I'll be right back with some more. I got to eat. All right, we're back here with the David and Patrick matchup. When I stopped, it was the previous day. I have no idea where I left off. But bottom line, I think the last point of emphasis that I made, we talked about Kamara and Mixon have to get over 40. So I gave you the advantage there, David. I like Hawkinson a lot better than Noah Fant. I think that leads us to the flexes, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember where I was at. So let's talk about that. On the Patrick side, I have to double check, just make sure that you didn't switch anybody in or out. Oh, God, these fucking names. What are they? Here we go. Whoa, holy crap. All right, David's line moved up to 142. That's impressive. Okay, yeah, same flexes. Chase Edmonds and Zach Pascal. Edmonds, this should be the only match, not only, but I'm expecting this to be the matchup where, God, I'm thinking of the team name. The Cardinals, thank you. I think they'll trail. And it's going to be interesting because that should suit well for Chase Edmonds in the passing game. Edmonds, only knock on him, the fact that Connor got 2 touchdowns really sucks because that's their goal line back. But Edmonds, for the most part, is on the field a lot. Zach Pascal, I can find about 1 million people in free agency that are a better flex than him. This is a slam dunk victory on the David side with Brandon Cooks and Mike Williams. Cooks, I think his day is going to get salvaged in garbage time. I expect the Bills to be, there's a reason why they're 16-point favorites. Houston ain't doing jack. They're not. They aren't doing a damn thing. Sorry if you're hoping that they will, because they're not. However, fourth quarter garbage time for Brandon Cooks. David, you won that deal and made your team a lot better. And your team was already amazing. This deal was like stealing candy from a freaking baby. I do not understand the thought process on the Johnny side of things at all. I think that was a waste of a trade, and it actually made his team a little bit weaker, and yours got a lot stronger. If anything, you're gonna have a lot of trade pieces. Cooks is gonna be hard to trust because he's on a bad team. I get that, but he's the only one making plays right now. He's gonna be in garbage time. Roll the dice with Brandon Cooks. I think, like I said last week, he got you 16 points. I expected 12. I think he's always going to hit that mark because of garbage time. Mike Williams, is this officially happening? A wide receiver one season? Oh yeah, I think I did touch on this. I talked about how the secret was he cut his hair, right? So now I'm remembering exactly everything. Now I'm sorry if I wasted my time. It's just 3 minutes. David, I think the one I don't even know if it's distinct. David, I'm giving you the advantage in the receiver department, the running back department, tight end department, flex department. I'll give Patrick the edge on defense. Bills D has actually surprisingly looked good. I thought the last 2 years, this was a very overrated defense. I don't know why people were hyping it up. They are not that good, but it looks like they've fixed a lot of their run problems, and their defense is kind of getting a little bit better. Tre'Davious White looks like he's bouncing back after a really bad year last year, too. David has had his bad luck against Zach Wilson. Well, David, congratulations. You don't get Zach Wilson, but you get Davis Mills this week. I don't know if that could be good or better or worse. Rams D, okay. Here's what I'm going to say with the Rams D. If I'm going to have a hot take in here somewhere, I'm going to expect a defensive touchdown for the Rams D here. And the reason why I'm going on that hot take is because Sean McVay has owned Cliff Kingsbury. So the weird triangle in the NFC West is this. It's the weirdest thing. Kingsbury seems to, with the exception of the last game last year, because Murray was hurt, Kingsbury has had the Niners number, but McVay has had Kingsbury's number, and the Niners have had McVay's number. Kingsbury has never beaten Sean McVay. I expect the Cardinals to lose this game. I know everybody's hopping on the bandwagon. To me, they're a fun team to watch. I would love to see Kyler Murray in the playoffs. I thought it was going to happen last year. But to me, the Cardinals are a better fantasy team than they are a real-life team. I know people are hyping up the defense, but ladies and gentlemen, they really have not played any explosive offenses. If you really want to say Minnesota is explosive, by all means, go ahead. But who are we kidding? It's been Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Minnesota. They're below average to average offenses at best. So I'm not buying it. I think the Rams are a much better, well-coached team. Hopkins' status, too, as well, is kind of, I don't know what's going on there. Patrick, my panic meter, if he doesn't do anything in this game, I'd set it at like a 6, because it's now 3 weeks where he's been kind of like meh. But I think the Bills defense, David, I think you're looking at the defense is going to put up 20 plus, and Patrick, you're going to need that. All right, my keys to victory. It looks like I got a little bit lazy, and I only gave it on the Patrick side. Patrick, it starts with Derrick Henry. This, on paper, it looks like a good matchup. The Jets defense will show up for the first half, and I think he just, gashes them in the second half. So David has a great counter. Mike Williams is wide receiver one season. It looks like it's actually finally happening. It only took the guy 5 years. A 5-year, post 5-year breakout, whatever the heck you want to call it. Mr. Patrick has Justin Herbert and he has Keenan Allen. That needs to be the combo. Historically, the Raiders have struggled over the middle of the field. Just some games that I'm throwing out there when it comes to 2 wide receiver sets. Antonio Brown's last, granted, this is a totally different Raiders team, but I do remember there was one game when Antonio Brown's last season with the Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster ate him up over the slot. Keenan Allen has always slayed the Raiders as well. I think he's been a Raider killer. Mike Williams. Raiders have not allowed anything deep thus far, but look at the teams that they've played. Baltimore can't throw for crap. Pittsburgh, Ben can't throw for crap. And Jacoby Brissett, the guy who averaged 4 yards per pass attempt, give me a break. Now he's going to deal with Justin Herbert, this Raiders defense. So Mike Williams is going to be that guy. But Patrick, on your side of the ball, that needs to be Herbert and Keenan Allen alone. If it's a Mike, If Mike Williams scores 1 touchdown, the game's over. I don't care if Keenan Allen gets 2 because I'm expecting this David team to roll. This is going to be odd, but I'm going to put Chase Edmonds as your other key to victory here. This is a game where game script could favor him. Chase Edmonds, as always, I think even last year when I thought this guy was going to be an RB1, he's just a boring RB2 at this point. And now with Connor being in the mix, I don't like James Conner, though. I'm throwing that out there. Because I think James Conner is a fake handcuff. But look at this. Edmonds is pretty much giving you a floor every week. He's not busting. You can probably, I don't want to say ceiling, but I can see 15 points out of him. I think he might be a little bit of an X factor for you. David, your keys to victory, Kamara and Mixon. That's number 1. I think they're in very good matchups starting with Thursday night. My number 2 for you is the Mike Williams situation because Keenan Allen has only been hitting his floor. He has not had any ceiling games, and he had a lot last year. But maybe they're relying on Mike Williams to be the ceiling guy, and if that's the case, that's the steal of the draft. I don't care what anybody says. It proved me damn wrong because I didn't want to hear his name as a sleeper every fucking year. Excuse me for dropping the F-bomb. But this guy, maybe it was the dreads. I don't know. And his health. But, I mean, you better pray he stays healthy is the bottom line. I'm seeing a lot of people saying sell high. You know, I mean, it's not a terrible idea if somebody overpays for him, but there are a lot of guys that are struggling right now that this is gross saying it, I'd still keep Mike Williams over him. My last key to victory, honestly, I'm going to go DJ Moore here. I know he's been fine for you, but without Christian McCaffrey, I think Darnold's pass attempts go up. Surprise here if anybody wants a little bit of a prop bet. I actually do like a Robbie Anderson touchdown in this game a lot. I think this offense is going to have to readjust. Chuba Hubbard, I think he's okay, but nobody's fearing Chuba Hubbard like they would Christian McCaffrey. Without further ado, I think Patrick is going to get a really bad shit end of the stick, if you will. Even though I think that Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert have I think their best combination games of the season. This David team, to me, David, I honestly wanted to put you as my number 1 ranked team. I had to show the crybaby. I don't want to say that. Didn't say that. I want to show Johnny some respect because he is 3-0 and he has the most points for now. But the next 3 weeks, I would not be at all shocked if this team continues to be the number 1 team. So, Patrick, I think your strength of schedule is just really screwing you over right now, buddy. If I had to pick a score, I think David's floor is easily a 130-something. So I'm going to say 148 David to 123 Patrick. Last but certainly not least, it is the matchup of the week. This is now the 3rd week in a row we have had undefeated teams in the main event, but this is even more important too. So we're in week 4, and these 2 teams have not lost until this week. One of them will. Johnny J. Fresh Ahern, his greatest September start in his entire career, and has also scored the most points. This, to me, is a reverse Johnny script. Usually, Johnny's record around this time is either 1-3 or, 2-2. And his points are middling, and then the team heats up a little bit later. Johnny is pretty much like if Alan discovered a new planet, but Johnny, I'm trying to go somewhere with this, but Johnny kind of tweaked it a little bit and said, no, actually, if you look over there, there's another planet. I'm going to show you how to discover it a little bit faster. I don't know. I tried something there. Hopefully it worked. Because we always talk about Johnny's team heats up, but Johnny already has pieces in place, and then he manages his way to the top. Alan just waits a little bit too long, and then it heats up, and then he misses out on the playoffs. But let's not forget about the other undefeated team, Mr. Paul Percal, who has also had a decent showing. And this is a classic Paul team, and I got to say, knock on wood for you, Paul. Usually a Paul team would be around this time 1-2, 2-1, because of the boom-bust factors that you have with your stacks. And luckily, you have survived, I think it was it the Alex week? There was 1 week you, got away with a game that was nerve-wracking because your team didn't boom. Without further ado, the matchup of the week. Paul, right now it says 136-93. The Johnny line has come down significantly. It opened up at 139 and is now down to 136. Paul is playing around with his lineup, but I'm going to predict about the other guys. Paul, I don't know if you're doing this to get mind games, so I would say, who do I think you're going to go and get my take on it? Not sure, but I'm going to call it like it is. I know how your brain works. Thomas Brady revenge game or Patrick Mahomes going into Philly and an Andy Reid revenge game maybe? Okay, I'm going to say this right now. Here it is. I'm going to start off with a hot take. If this is wrong, Johnny's going to come for me at my throat. Paul will probably do the same thing. So I apologize, Paul, because you know when I do this, it doesn't work out well. First of all, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes over Tom Brady. That isn't even a contest. Sorry about that. But I understand it. Is this more of a revenge game for Tom Brady or a revenge game for Bill Belichick? And here's this is a hot take. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I would not be at all shocked if Bill Belichick knows how to play Tom Brady and Brady looks a little bit sluggish out of the gate. I can't say bust, but that factor alone early on might limit Brady's upside, and I'm going to have to go with Patrick Mahomes. Michael Evans, Tyler Lockett, Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham Jr. Starting the Johnny side, Mike Evans, okay? What do we got for Mike Evans? 3 points, 22 points, and whoa. Well, okay, Mike Evans, 14 points. Okay, so it looks like we're on some Booms games. I'm going to tell you this right now, kid. Okay, some kid just screamed outside. It was a weird noise. Anyway, Michael Evans. If Stephon Gilmore is healthy and Bill Belichick needs to take away somebody on the outside, it's going to be Mike Evans. If I'm betting on the Tampa Bay receiver to get the least amount of points, it's probably Mike Evans. But I'm not Bill Belichick. I don't know what the fuck he's planning for. Sorry. Okay, another hot take here. Tyler Lockett, a man who I love, a man who I am still emotionally attached to, and there was a bit of a scare with the knee. And he's officially listed on the injury report. Paul, if you heard me last year with your Russ and DK stacks, I'm worried because I've seen this episode replay in my head a million times. And I'll just say it again, a million times. Every time this guy is listed on the injury report, he's a decoy for the next 2 weeks, and you never know. And then he goes back to being boomer bust Lockett instead of, holy crap, wide receiver 1 every single league, Tyler Lockett. Makes me a little bit nervous. However, big however here. Last year, Seattle, when Lockett was getting hurt, had a winning record. They're already 1-2 now, so could desperation play a factor and say, you know what, I know your knee is hurting, Tyler Lockett. We've got a divisional game. You need to be your ass out there. Get the hell out there. Pete Carroll's saying he's fine, by the way. Tyreek Hill, okay, going to throw it out here right now. Tyreek Hill, sorry, Paul, I'm making a statement, and I know you're going to get pissed off at me, and that's this, that, or the other. I think Tyreek Hill going to get off the schneid a little bit. I think he's going to have an explosive game, which gets me a little bit concerned, too, because last year Tyreek Hill had a floor and upside, and now it's looking like it's classic Tyreek Hill. It's like 7-10 when he's not doing anything, and then he explodes for 20+. When Harsh had him last year, he was getting 15-16 without exploding, which was weird because it was okay, this guy has a really good floor now. But this is the Philadelphia Eagles, a bum-ass secondary. I love me some Tyreek Hill. In fact, that fact alone, I don't care what Odell Beckham Jr. does in this matchup, I'm taking the Paul side of the receiver things. Simply because I'm worried about Mike Evans getting shadowed, and the Tyler Lockett thing, I've owned him. I've seen this story a million times. They baby the crap out of him but if they're in desperation mode at 1-2, Johnny, maybe they're going to say, you know what, I don't care if your leg snaps in half. Get out there, we're throwing you the rock. But if I want, Paul, I know it's a matchup of the week, so I'll give you an analysis. Beckham actually looked probably his best game as a Brown. Paul, another interesting tidbit here. He was not in on any run plays, which, if I'm a coach, is not very good. Because if you're seeing that Odell Beckham isn't there, you know it's going to be a run game. And maybe that's why Chubb kind of struggled a little bit. Just a little bit interesting tidbit. So they're still limiting him, but when his number is called, his number is going to get called. This Minnesota Vikings secondary is god-awful. Patrick Peterson, man, just retire. It's a shame because he was going strong for the longest time, man. And for those of you who thought Richard Sherman was a better corner than Patrick Peterson, you're wrong. That was never the case. I know I'm getting off topic here, but if they're just going to simplify everything for Odell Beckham, this might be Paul. Okay, I know you're going to get pissed again because I hyped up Tyreek Hill. I'll say Odell Beckham touchdown. Sorry to piss you off again. Najee Harris and Nyheim Hines, Chris Carson, and Jonathan Taylor. Taylor on the injury report as we speak on Thursday at a 5:06 p.m. as I'm recording this. Chris Carson, the king of consistency. Again, he is the definition of a floor RB2. I can't say RB1. If you want to go low end RB1, that's fine. The numbers could make that argument, but it's 11, 15, and 15. San Francisco has not been that great defensively this year. I don't know what's going on with that. I know Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift were great in the fantasy realm against them. Eagles couldn't do anything. And then Aaron Jones obviously being Aaron Jones. So I think they're a little bit better than advertised against running backs. Chris Carson has scored in 2 straight games. Let's see if he makes it 3 straight. This Jonathan Taylor thing is getting annoying at this point. And it's hilarious because Nyheim Hines you're going up against. I'm going to give Johnny the advantage on the running back department, Paul. I'm going to tell you why. So, Jonathan Taylor on the injury report might explain why he wasn't used that often. And again, with this Nyheim Hines, I think they don't use him consistently because they're afraid he's going to get hurt. Maybe that's Frank Reich's thing. I don't know. But if Quentin Nelson is not there, I think Jonathan Taylor is kind of just a gross pick. He might be what he was last year when Harsh had him, and he was like, yo, I have to start this guy because I don't have anybody else. That might be the case. Miami is a decent enough defense, but I would not be at all surprised if Nyheim Hines is getting more work. I think that here's my hot take. Najee Harris and Nyheim Hines might see 20-plus targets combined. And in a half-point PPR, I don't care what Chris Carson does. I got to lean to the Johnny side. Ben Roethlisberger can't throw right now. Najee Harris, Johnny, you knew what to do when you jumped me with that pick. In a way, it was a kind of it worked out on the end because, like, at where I was drafting, I would have had to go receivers that I didn't like there. My receivers would be really weak. However, this is where I flipped the switch. My running backs would be freaking nasty. So it's whatever. I like the way things turned out. Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski, okay. So if this is a Tom Brady revenge narrative, you would think that Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown are going to score a touchdown, which if anybody's got prop bets, I mean, depending on how much I win, I might throw on some of that action. Nyheim Hines. Oh, I'm sorry. Travis Kelce. Paul, I'm sorry. I know it's my boy. I know it's my boy. He's going to freaking pay me when Mahomes passes it. There you go, kid. I got to take Travis Kelce. So Julio Jones, questionable. Julio Jones is going to be a decoy, I think. Cole Beasley. Well, let me start with Johnny and then what I speculate Paul to do. Oh, wow. Claypool's on the injury report. Steelers suck. Julio Jones. A.J. Brown is probably not going to play after they're saying he's week to week. Julio Jones, I think he's out there. I think he's a decoy unless in the first half they realize, look, this Jets defense is a lot tougher than I think. You need to get your ass back out there, Julio Jones. That's what I think is going to happen, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to take the under. That 13, I'm going to say 8 points for Julio Jones. Cole Beasley. So, there's 2 teams that have similar receiving cores that I'm going to make a statement on. And, Johnny, I don't know if you still listen to this podcast, but you should because I'm making some knowledge here, buddy. There are 2 receiving cores where there are 4 guys that are always in the mix, which is a lot. When it's narrowed down to 3, you know what the roles are. You have the alpha, you have the slot guy, and you have the boomer bust guy for most teams. But there are 2 teams that have 4 guys in a high-octane offense. That's the Arizona Cardinals receivers, and that's the Buffalo Bills receivers. And Johnny, I think his brain is... Look, Johnny does some stupid crap, Paul, but eventually he figures crap out once the data is sent to him. The Bills receivers are guys you just have to plug in, and that's it. You cannot bench these guys. After what we saw last week, Emmanuel Sanders popped off, Cole Beasley had another good game, and Diggs still got his targets. They throw so much that they're able to support 3 guys. Usually it's 1 to 2 guys that are like out of the loop. But I think Beasley replacing Brandon Cooks might not be that much of a downgrade. But I think just like the Cardinals receiver situation, if you have those 4 guys, you just have to play them and hope for the best. Even though I still don't know why AJ Green is getting targets. Once he gets out of the picture, it's just going to be down to 3. But Beasley against Houston, look, I honestly think Josh Allen is going into this meeting and saying, look, I want to do something so impressive. And they're going to go, okay, Josh, tell us, what do you want to do? I want to throw 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. Let's see if we have the 5. Stephon Diggs, check. Emmanuel Sanders, check. Cole Beasley, check. Gabriel Davis, check. And Dawson Knox. I think that's what's going to happen, Paul. Sorry. Paul, your flexes. Chase Claypool. Well, Steelers are all banged up, and Ben can't throw a pass, which limits Claypool's upside. Claypool, I know on the box score, it looked like he did really well, but that's not what Chase Claypool should be used for underneath. If Ben can't throw deep down the field, Houston, we have a major problem over here. And Claypool has no upside. Essentially, Paul, Chase Claypool becomes what Johnny has and Cole Beasley, and that's only if Juju or Deontay is out. So instead of getting this breakout candidate, you're now having a boring floor player. And in fact, he might even drop down to the Jacoby Myers tier, Jaden Waddle tier. Like, I feel like Beasley's already in that tier, if you will. Paul, I'm going to say a statement that's going to get you pissed off, and Johnny's going to laugh at it. If you told me rest of the season who would I rather have, Chase Claypool or Marquez Callaway, I'm probably going Marquez Callaway. And I am saying that with a straight face. Anyway, Paul, I know that probably got you nervous on who to play. Sorry. Darnell Mooney, no, I wasn't buying that. Well, it looks like you're down to Kenny Golladay and Nelson Aguilar. And Henry Ruggs has popped off as well. Let's not forget him. So Galladay's already in the doghouse. Sucks to be Kenny Golladay, I guess. Senor Golladay. Well, look, Shepard and Slayton are out, which leaves them with Colin Johnson, who I expect to be picked up after this week. Colin Johnson wasn't bad with the Jaguars, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why they cut him. Colin Johnson might operate as the X, Golladay at the Z, and then I think Kadarius Toney might just have to play the slot. But Daniel Jones hasn't been that bad. I think the Giants are a mess, Paul. You know all. But I mean, it's like, well, who do you want? Like, Claypool and Golladay to me are like the same risk. Nelson Aguilar is a little bit intriguing. Because it's going to be a game. New England's going to have to throw a ball. So if you're looking at this matchup and saying, okay, New England's going to be far behind, I think Jacoby Myers has his best game of his NFL career. Kendrick Bourne's starting to get into the mix. And now you got Nelson Aguilar, who's still getting targets. The usage is there. Mac Jones isn't connecting with him. The best thing that you have going for Nelson Aguilar's outlook, James White might have a career-ending injury. And they don't have an established third down guy. Now, I bid on J.J. Taylor because he fits that archetype to be the James White guy. But if Brandon Bolden, I didn't even know he was still in the NFL, to be honest. If he's going to have his carcass back there and just be boring as anything, there's a lot of targets to go around in this Patriots offense. And honestly, like, say what you want, but these rookie quarterbacks, the more you're making them throw, the more defensive coverages that they're going to get used to later on. Obviously, Aguilar is the boom-bust guy. I just don't know if Kendrick Bourne's role gets expanded. what does that mean for Jacoby Myers? The tight ends look like they're busts. But just something to think of. And Paul, if you really want some convincing on this, I know you're in my division too, but if you really want some convincing on this, Tampa Bay secondary is extremely prone to bad plays over the top. Sean Murphy-Bunting is out, so the slot, I don't know if Bourne's the slot or Myers. I think they rotate. And, in my opinion, their best corner from last year, Jamel Dean. I know Harsh has always been on the Carlton Davis hype. Jamel Dean is the guy who can cover deep. And they had to bring in old-ass Richard Sherman. So, Paul, I know in your mind it's between Claypool, Galladay, Aguilar, and last but not least, Henry Ruggs III. Johnny has called me out a million times of being a Raiders fan over a Jets fan. I'm just going to say this right now. I am a Jets fan first. My West Coast team is the Las Vegas Raiders. That's just a plain fact. Love their uniforms. It's the most villainous, in my opinion, one of the most iconic uniforms of all time. They have the best quotes, whatever. And I got to show some love to my man, John Gruden. I mean, did you see the way Derek Carr came back in that game, man? I mean, he was hitting guys over the top. I mean, this Brian Edwards, man, doesn't do anything for, the first 4 quarters. And he hit him on a slant, and he's dragging guys left and right. I like this Edwards guy, man. Reminds me of a lot of guy named Braylon Edwards. Remember him? Hey, I like that guy. Anyway, let's talk about Henry Ruggs. Carr is slinging it. I think Derek Carr is going back to his MVP days. He has put up 3 games with 20-plus points in a row. Usually when Carr would go off for 30, next week is 17. But the running back situation is god-awful. I think Josh Jacobs is probably not going to be on the team next year. They're fed up with him. I mean, it was a bad sign in week 1 when his first year when they held him out in multiple games. So that's kind of a bad sign. Wow, I'm hitting the 20-minute mark. Paul, you're getting your money's worth here today, buddy. Let's talk about Ruggs. So Waller, Renfro are commanding the most targets. Ruggs and Edwards are kind of, bottom line is Derek Carr is throwing a ton, and he's spreading the wealth. The most valuable targets, though, to me, go to Ruggs and Waller. Waller you can do everything with. Ruggs is the deep threat guy, and Renfro is just everything underneath. And Brian Edwards is the only guy who doesn't have a role, except for whatever reason his best moments come in overtime, but I think his role's got to be expanded as well. Well, Mayock spent a pick on Henry Ruggs. Everybody thought it was a bust, and you know what? He has looked really good the last 2 weeks. Not just blowing by people. He had a really good catch against the sideline against Xavier Howard, too. Well, so here's the thing now. You get the Chargers. The Chargers have done a fantastic job of holding everything. They have not been beaten over the top yet this year. I think maybe it's because their captain in the secondary, Jerome James, is finally healthy. He knows how to command different type of zone coverages. Maybe it's even Brandon Staley actually living up to the hype of the coach. So, Paul, bottom line is this, buddy. If I'm looking at your roster right now, all these guys are coin flips, which I get why you're not going in there. If Deontay and Juju or one of them is out, I think Claypool becomes boring, but I think he's grossly safe. I don't think that made any sense. Look, Kenny Galladay was just a bad sign. I told you this flat out. Aguilar, I think, is in the best game script out of your 4. And Ruggs his role is continuing to expand. So, Paul, you got to make the decision on your own, buddy. Wow, all right, I went on death on this one. Jesus. Defensively, New Orleans defense, I was very shocked they were not drafted, and I'm really upset that they were picked up. My sleeper defense of the year was the Carolina Panthers. You could even ask Harsh and Rob Coffey that. I called this back in June. That's paying off. But I was a little bit nervous that the Saints defense was going to be a little bit relevant. And who do they get? Oh, that's right. Their home opener against the New York Giants. I smell a beatdown. And then defensively for Paul, I don't even know what the hell you got going on here, kid.
Well, it looks like he's got Tampa or Cincy.
So Tampa's D hasn't lived up because of injuries, but they're still a very, very good defense against a rookie quarterback, Todd Bowles. I kind of like that matchup.
Cincy.
Cincinnati's defense is actually pretty underrated. I got news for you. And Trevor Lawrence is the gift that keeps on giving. So, Paul, you got options at the defensive side. Do you think that it's a Tom Brady revenge narrative and then it's a beatdown against Bill? Bottom line is both your defenses have good core. I don't know who Cincinnati's coordinator is, but they're going against rookie, mistake-prone quarterbacks. Just want to throw that out there. All right, we got ourselves a matchup. Holy crap. I've been rambling on. Sorry, this new coffee that I have is making me very energized. All right. No bias here because I'm going to tell you why it's no bias. Johnny always thinks that I'm out to get him. He might be partially true, but I am very unbiased when I go and call it like it is. And then we got the Mr. Paul Percall side who's in my division. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first key to victory, if Paul wants to win, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce has been so good. Patrick Mahomes is going to need to say, I need my playmaker on the field. Boop, 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 boop. Hit him deep down the side of the field. Another key to victory for Mr. Paulie Picali. I think it's the running backs. I mean, they are in very weird situations right now. Carson's been consistent, but Jonathan Taylor hasn't. Najee Harris and Nyheim Hines made me very nervous because their roles, I think, are... Well, Najee Harris, you knew his role was going to be like this, but Nyheim Hines, not really. And Paul, I mean, this is kind of pointing out the obvious. Your flexes, man. Decide and choose wisely, my friend. Jonathan's keys to victory. Number one, Tom Brady's got to get the revenge game. I know it's like, well, he's been so good, but like Bill Belichick has coached this guy for so many years. Maybe he knows where he's weak at, aka the middle of the field. I mean, where he's strong at to take away and make him throw deep. That's what I meant to say. Second key to victory, Nyheim Hines over Jonathan Taylor, which could actually really, really happen.
I believe it.
But man, oh man, I think it's battle of the flexes, man, because the flexes are very questionable. All right, Nicholas, pick a winner. Here we go. The match for the week. In the matchup of the week. Johnny J. Fresh has been on fire. He has been on fire. He's been unstoppable. But we've got injuries on the Giants side of the ball. We've got Tyler Lockett. Julio Jones, who is always a threat to be a decoy. But what does Johnny J. Fresh have going for him? The running backs, getting all the targets. Could that be enough? On the Paul side of the ball, has no idea who he's going to put at flex. But when it all comes down to it, is Patrick Mahomes going to find Tyreek Hill against a shaky Eagles defense? The answer is yes. And Paul pulls out the victory solely because Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill will combine. Oh, you're going to get so mad if this doesn't happen. I'm loving it. 60 points. If this doesn't happen, I'm going to kill you. But just saying, I'm going to pick Paul in the upset. Paul, the deciding factor for me came down to this. Julio Jones and Cole Beasley. Julio Jones is always a threat to be a decoy whenever he's in, and it's the Jets. I don't think they need to use Julio Jones. And I think that Mike Evans gets taken out of the game. Paul, that was the deciding factor for me, buddy.